I inherited the farm from my father just a few months ago. I thought it would be a fresh start. I'm 32 now. I left my job in the city to come back and restore the place where I grew up. It was going great, but things changed. I still think about the strange events that happened here. One cool autumn night, I was closing up the barn. The sky turned dark, and the air felt thick. As I locked the door, I heard a rustling sound from the cornfield. I thought it was just some animals moving through the stalks, so I brushed it off. I felt a chill, but I figured it was just the autumn breeze settling in. Days went by, and I began to notice flat sections in the cornfield. They looked like footprints, but they didn't belong to any animals. At first, I thought maybe some kids came onto the farm while I wasn't around. I didn't think much of it. Then, one night, I was walking back to the house from the barn. I stopped to breathe in the cool night air. That's when I heard whispers. They came from inside the barn. It sounded like someone was calling my name. My heart raced. I froze, unsure of what to do. Should I go in? It felt so wrong, but I didn't want to seem scared. After that night, I found the footprints again. They looked human, but something felt off about them. I stared at the ground with my stomach in knots. Part of me wanted to follow them, but fear gripped me. What if I wasn't alone? As I stood there, that feeling of being watched crept up my spine. It wasn't just the shadows in the field or the creaking barn, it was something behind me. Something that shouldn't have been there. I turned around, expecting to see someone, but all I saw was the empty farmhouse. Weeks rolled on, and my unease only grew. Each night, the whispers returned. They grew louder, more urgent. Luke, Luke. Whenever I thought about confronting whatever was causing it, dread washed over me. It felt like a dream, a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I don't remember exactly what happened next. I was exhausted, and my vision blurred. It felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Maybe it was the stress losing my father, stepping into his shoes, the weight of this farm. But those whispers, those footprints, they stayed with me, just below the surface. I started thinking back to my father's stories about the land. Dark things, about how our family had lived here for generations. I laughed them off, but now, they haunted me. I realized that this wasn't just my father's farm anymore. It felt like something else lived here now. Something I couldn't escape. Then, one night, as the shadows stretched across the field, I heard it again, clearer this time. Luke, come home. It didn't sound like anyone I knew. That night, adrenaline coursed through my veins as I stood frozen outside the barn. The whisper had sounded so near, like a haunting echo that could pull me in. I finally forced my feet to move, retracing my steps back to the house. I needed to collect myself and think that I opened the door and switched on the lamp in the kitchen, feeling its warm light push against the cold darkness that lingered outside. The familiar smell of the old wood and the scent of dust scratched at my memories. I grabbed a chair and sat down, trying to calm the tumult in my mind. My father's chair sat empty, and I wished he were here, perhaps to laugh off my worries. I picked up the old family photo album from the shelf. My fingers traced the worn edges as I opened it. There were photos of happy days on the farm, but lurking among them were shots of the previous winter, faded and foggy. I realized I hadn't come across any recent pictures, no moments from last summer when I had returned home. Then I noticed something strange, a picture I didn't recognize. It was taken from the edge of the cornfield, a group of children playing. They were laughing, their backs turned to the camera. They looked happy. I could picture my dad among them, maybe calling out to them to behave. But the corner of the photo was burnt, blackened, as if something dangerous crept at the edges of their joy. I flipped the page, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something off about that image. That moment in time captured a happiness I felt the land was hiding now. I closed the album and placed it down on the table, my heart racing again at the thought of the whispers. Suddenly, I heard a loud thud from the barn. My instinct pulled me to the door. I stepped outside into the freezing night, a half-empty glass of water awkwardly cradled in my hand. I walked toward the barn, the cool wind biting at my skin. As I approached the door, a flash of movement caught my eye quick, almost too fast to see. My stomach turned, and I hesitated. I felt a shiver creep down my spine. Was I really prepared to confront whatever was happening? Then I heard the whisper again, but this time tinged with urgency: "Luke, come home." My heart sank. This time, it didn't sound like it was coming from the barn but rather from deeper within the cornfield. Without thinking, I stepped forward into the rows of corn. The crunch of dried leaves beneath my feet echoed loudly in the silence. I could feel the shadows moving as the wind raced through the field. I had to know what was happening. I had to find out who, or what, was calling me, when I saw a figure standing at the far edge of the field, half hidden behind the stalks. My breath caught in my throat, and all I could do was stand there, frozen, staring at it. Just as quickly as I found it, the wind shifted, and the figure vanished. The whispers grew louder, almost tangible now. My heart raced as fear and curiosity wrestled within me. I turned back towards the barn, but something told me I wasn't finished with the cornfield yet. Who was calling me home? And why did I suddenly feel like I was about to uncover a truth long buried? I stepped deeper into the cornfield, the whispering growing more insistent. "Luke, come home." Echoed again, but this time it felt less like a plea and more like a command. My feet moved almost mechanically through the rows, drawn toward the sound. The darkness pressed in around me, and I could hear my heart beating in my ears. As I ventured further, the corn stalk swayed, and I barely caught glimpses of the figure I had seen earlier, darting just out of sight. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but the curiosity gnawed at me. Who were they? What did they want? I stopped, trying to steady my breathing. "Hello?" I called into the thick murk. My voice felt weak, swallowed by the rustling leaves. Silence settled back on me. Then, I heard it again. A soft giggle that felt familiar, yet eerie. It was as if the children from the photograph were playing hide and seek again, except now, there was no laughter, just that disquieting whisper. "Luke." The voice had changed, colder now, sharper. It was no longer inviting me home but warning. My stomach dropped. Whatever I had felt before turned into something darker. I was no longer just curious, I was afraid. That I took a step back, retracing my path. But the whispers grew wild, swirling around me. "You shouldn't have come back." They hissed, sending a fresh wave of chills down my spine. My pulse quickened as I clutched at the stalks for support. Then, I saw movement again. This time, it was clearer, a small figure darting between the rows. I squinted, my heart racing. It was a child, a girl in a faded white dress, her hair brushing against her shoulders. She had that same joyful expression as the children in the photo. I felt the urge to call out to her, to ask her where she was going, but the words were stuck in my throat. "Come play, Luke," she beckoned, her voice echoing like a distant memory. As she turned, her features blurred, and a shadow loomed behind her. I felt a grasp of fear unlike anything before. Was this daughter of joy now twisted into something sinister? "Wait!" I shouted, lunging forward, but she vanished into the shadows before I could reach her. Panic shot through me, tightening around my chest. I spun around, feeling the air close in behind me, then I noticed something shiny nestled in the dirt where she had stood. I knelt down and uncovered a locket, the metal cool against my fingers. It was tarnished and old, almost like the photos in the album I had looked through earlier. I opened it carefully, revealing two tiny pictures inside, one of the little girl, the other a picture of my father as a boy, laughing, eyes bright. My heart dropped at the connection. What did this mean? Why was my father's face linked to this child, this ghostly figure weaving through the shadows? Suddenly, the whispers returned, a cacophony urging for my attention. I couldn't stay hidden any longer. I had to uncover whatever truth was buried in this field. And then everything went dark, the night swallowing me whole. I jolted awake, the ground cold beneath me, the weight of silence pressing in. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then I recalled the cornfield and the whispers that had pulled me in. Panic surged again as I scrambled to my feet. The air was thick, almost stifling, and the pale moonlight provided little comfort. I brushed my fingers over the locket, its presence grounding me. I need to get out of here, I whispered to myself, but the memories of the girl and her beckoning voice pulled me back. I took a cautious step forward. The corn around me was eerily still now, almost watching. I walked along the path I hoped would lead back to the edge of the field. But as I moved, I heard a rustle, a sound that jolted my senses. My heart raced as I turned, scanning the darkness for the source. Then, I noticed something unusual. The corn stalks on my right appeared to have been flattened, forming a clear path deeper into the field. A chill ran down my spine. I knew instinctively I should avoid it, yet a morbid curiosity pushed me closer. The whispers resumed, but this time they sounded different, a rhythmic chant that rose and fell like a lullaby. I was drawn deeper into the rows, against my better judgment. The ground felt softer here, as if it had been walked on many times before. That's when I saw it, a wooden post standing off the path, slanted and worn. Imprinted in its surface was a symbol I didn't recognize, jagged and rough. I approached it, my heart hammering in my chest. Could this be a marker of some kind? It felt significant, even ominous. I reached out to touch the symbol, but just before my fingers made contact, a voice broke through the stillness. "You shouldn't be here, Luke." It was my name again, clear and sharp, echoing between the corn stalks. My breath caught in my throat. Slowly, I turned around, dread settling in my stomach. The little girl appeared again, standing behind me at the edge of the path, her outline illuminated in the faint moonlight. This time, her face looked different, clouded, her eyes dark pools absorbing the light around her. "Play with us," she said, and I noticed a group of figures emerging behind her, lingering in the shadows. More children, their faces twisted with expressions I couldn't decipher. Fear wrapped around me, squeezing tight. I gripped the locket, the cold metal anchoring me. "What do you want?" I managed to say, my voice trembling. "Come closer," she beckoned, her voice almost melodic. "We miss you." I couldn't move. Instinct kicked in, and I turned on my heel, racing toward the path I had come from. Panic fueled my sprint as whispers transformed into warnings. "You can't run. You're one of us now." The ground rushed beneath my feet, but I couldn't shake off the sensation of being followed, the laughter and the whispers growing louder behind me. I stumbled, the locket clattering to the ground. I skidded to a halt and looked back over my shoulder. The children were closer now, their faces just beyond the reach of the dim light. Understanding dawned on me. I wasn't just running away, I was being drawn into something bigger, something I hadn't yet grasped, that I didn't know what awaited me in the dark, but I felt I was about to find out. I took a deep breath and charged forward, desperation guiding me through the field of shadows. I burst through the rows of corn, the whispers swirling around me like a storm. My breath quickened, raw panic filling my lungs. I didn't dare look back, each step was a desperate bid to escape what was growing closer behind me. Then, just as I thought I could break free, the ground shifted unexpectedly underfoot. With a sharp cry, I tripped and fell to my knees. Pain shot through my palms as they connected with the earth, but I couldn't take the time to process it. I pushed myself up again, but my hands were now smeared with something slick and dark. My heart raced as I struggled to wipe it away, glancing around. Had I stumbled into some kind of trap? That's when I caught a glimpse of what surrounded me. Hollowed-out footprints, fresh and deep, marked the ground all around me. They led away from where I fell, toward a patch of corn that swayed violently as if something was moving through it. "What is going on?" I gasped, the words spilling out. "Come play." The little girl's voice rang out closer now, and my skin prickled. I turned just in time to see her silhouette dart between the stalks. Fear clawed at my insides. The chanting had grown louder, creating a cacophony that threatened to drown me. I staggered to my feet that I stumbled toward the edge of the field, determined to break through the wall of corn. My heart raced dangerously, each beat echoing like a warning. There had to be an exit somewhere. Continuing along the narrow path, I caught sight of a flicker of light in the distance. Hope surged within me. I sprinted, the light growing brighter, beckoning me. I pushed harder, driven by urgency. But the laughter echoed once more, playful and haunting as it circled around me. "Don't leave." They cried that I broke past the last row of corn, crashing into an open space. The moon hung low, illuminating an old barn that stood forlorn and dusty. The sight froze me momentarily. It felt too quiet, too still. The laughter faded, replaced by an eerie silence that wrapped around me. But the sense of safety was short-lived. I turned to look back at the cornfield, breathless but alive with adrenaline. What just happened? Then, a sound like creaking wood broke through the stillness. The barn door inched open, revealing darkness inside. I hesitated. Something inside felt inviting yet dangerous, tugging at my curiosity. "Luke," came the same sweet tone from the little girl, this time calling softly from within. "We're waiting for you." I swallowed hard. A part of me screamed to run, to put as much distance as I could between myself and this place. But the allure of that voice, the promise of something, pulled me. Shivers ran down my spine as I approached, crossing over the threshold into the unknown. My heart pounded in my chest as I stepped inside. With each movement, the air felt heavier, almost electric. A shadow lurked in the corner, and I caught a glimpse of something shifting. The whispers buzzed around me once more, now mixed with something like laughter. I turned to leave, but that's when I heard a sound that stopped me dead in my tracks, a giggle, spiked with malice. The laughter was not just from the children outside. I was not alone. Before I could react, the barn door slammed shut behind me, plunging me into darkness. "You're one of us," they chimed, the voices blending together, sinister and sweet. I had entered their world, and there was no turning back. I stood frozen in the dark barn, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The whispers swirled around me, a disorienting mix of sweet laughter and taunts. I pressed my back against the rough wood of the barn wall, desperation clawing at my throat. What had I walked into? "Luke," the girl's voice echoed again, now closer, playful yet dangerously high-pitched. "Join us." I swallowed hard, trying to gather my thoughts. Fumbling in my pocket, I found my phone, the dim light flickering to life as I turned it on. Just a small beam in the thick darkness, but it felt like a weapon. The cold light pushed back the shadows. That's when I saw its shapes moving in the corners, shifting like smoke, almost blending into the walls. I could make out fleeting shadows, but their forms eluded clarity, flickering and fading as I turned. Panic swept through me. I had to get out. "Don't be scared," came a voice, softer this time. I focused on a figure that slowly emerged from the shadows, a boy, no older than 10, with wide eyes and a crooked smile. His clothes were tattered, dirt smeared across his cheeks, and something about his expression felt wrong. "What do you want?" I breathed, feeling the strain in my voice. I was fighting against the urge to run, to scream. He stepped closer, the smile never wavering. "We just want to play." Suddenly, the atmosphere thickened, like a blanket smothering any hope I had of escaping. From behind him, other figures began to materialize, more children, all with dark, hollow eyes. They flanked him, and with them came the sound of their laughter, a haunting harmony that sent shivers through my spine. In an instinctual rush, I turned and pounded on the barn door, my fists pounding against the wood. "Let me out!" I shouted, a mix of fear and disbelief coursing through me. But my cries were swallowed by their laughter, which only grew louder, more insistent. Suddenly, the boy stepped forward, his voice low but sharp. "You can't leave yet, Luke. You haven't played with us." "Not really." His gaze pierced through the gloom, and for a moment, I thought I could see something flicker behind those dark eyes. Played? I stammered, my stomach twisting at the thought. What do you mean? Not the way you think, he said, tilting his head like a curious bird. Behind him, the other children began to sway, like a bizarre dance. My heart raced as I backed away. I had to break free from this horror, then, unexpectedly, the barn rumbling shook underfoot as if it were alive. Dust and debris fell from the beams above, and I stumbled back, blinking at the sudden chaos. The laughter escalated, voices echoing like a chorus urging me into the abyss. Join us! They cried once more, their voices melding and multiplying. Please, I choked out, my breath quickening as they began to advance on me, the desire for escape mixing with a new, primal fear. That's when something caught my eye, an old window to my left, half open and bathed in moonlight, offering a glimpse of the outside world. It felt like salvation, and I lunged toward it. But as I reached for the window, a hand shot out, thin fingers grasping my wrist with surprising strength. I looked back, horror coursing through me as I met the boy's empty gaze. You're not ready to leave, he whispered that I was trapped, that's when I heard the sound of rustling hay behind me, a new presence in the barn. My heart dropped, sensing I was no longer alone in my fight to escape. The rustling grew louder, and I realized the noise was coming from the far corner of the barn. My breath hitched in my throat. I couldn't tell if it was another child or something worse. Luke, the boy whispered again, tightening his grip on my wrist. You can't leave yet. I felt trapped, like a fly caught in a web. I glanced back at the window, the moonlight still shining brightly, taunting me with the freedom I craved. The laughter and whispers of the children surrounded me, a suffocating enchantment that made each step toward escape feel heavier. Then suddenly, a shadow emerged from the corner. A small figure stumbled into the dim light. It was another child, but this one seemed different. He was older, maybe 15, and his hair was matted. His clothes, unlike the others, looked worn but intact. He raised his hands in a gesture of peace, but his eyes were wild. Get out! He shouted, his voice raspy but sharp. They'll trap you if you stay. The boy beside me frowned, irritation flashing across his face. He's lying, he hissed. Stay with us, Luke. My mind raced. Who was telling the truth? The urgency in the older boy's eyes convinced me of something sinister. What do you know? I asked, my voice shaky but desperate that he took a step closer, eyes darting nervously to the group of children surrounding me. They're not real. They can't hurt you unless you let them. Behind him, the other children began to shift uneasily, their laughter dipping into a discordant hum. The older boy pressed on, you need to fight. They feed off fear, and once you play their game, you become part of it. The grip on my wrist tightened painfully. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I can't. They won't let me. He glanced back at the other kids, then swung his attention back to me. Trust me, Luke. Don't play their game. Break their hold. I hesitated, torn between the familiar and the unknown. I could feel the darkness creeping in, suffocating my resolve, but something else ignited inside of me, defiance. I jerked my wrist away from the boy's grasp, surprising him with my sudden strength. The other children gasped collectively, a sound that sent chills crawling down my spine. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had to act now. I turned to run toward the window, but the world shifted around me. The barn felt like it was closing in, the laughter bursting forth like an angry wave. Join us! They screamed, their voices now a cacophony that made my head spin. That I dove for the window, the moonlight now a beacon blinding me. I could almost taste freedom, but I had to push through the darkness. I felt fingers scrape my arm as I squeezed through the narrow opening, a searing pain igniting my skin. With one swift movement, I tumbled out into the cool night air, landing hard on the ground. I gasped for breath, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Behind me, I heard the children's laughter turn into a roar. They were angry. But I didn't look back. I scrambled to my feet and ran. I had no idea what would happen next, but I couldn't go back. Not now. Then, just as I turned to escape the barn's shadow, I stumbled onto something buried in the dirt, a small, rusted key, its sharp edges glinting in the moonlight. I picked it up, my breath hitching once more. What did it unlock? And why was it here? I had escaped one nightmare, but I might be running toward another. I sprinted away from the barn, the key clutched tightly in my palm. My heart raced as I scanned the darkness surrounding me. Shadows loomed from the trees, their branches twisting like fingers reaching out. I could still hear the distant echo of children's laughter, a maddening sound that seemed to chase me, that I needed to find somewhere safe, somewhere I could think. A small shed sat at the edge of the clearing, half hidden by overgrown weeds. I dashed toward it, pushing the creaking door open just enough to slip inside. The stale smell of hay mingled with something else, something rancid. Inside, I leaned against the wall, trying to calm my frantic breathing. The darkness felt suffocating. I fumbled with the key. Maybe it was meant to unlock something more than just a door. I turned it over in my hand, searching for any clue, when I saw it, a faded wooden box tucked away in the corner. My pulse quickened as I approached it. The lock looked old and rusted, but it seemed to be a perfect match for the key. I hesitated, half expecting something to jump out at me. Gathering my courage, I inserted the key into the lock. It turned with a raspy click that echoed in the silence. I lifted the lid slowly, expecting the worst. Inside lay a tattered journal. My fingers trembled as I picked it up and opened the fragile pages. The handwriting was scrawled and messy, but it was legible. I read about a boy named Jacob, a name I recognized from whispers among the other children, always mentioned in hushed tones. He had lived on this farm years ago, and his story felt eerily similar to mine. Jacob spoke of other children, too, trapped in a never-ending cycle of games and laughter, too enticing to resist. That I flipped through more pages, my heart sinking. Jacob had written about the darkness that came to play during the night, about how he had tried to escape but always wound up trapped again. Each attempt led to more fear and despair. The final entry shook me to my core. To break free, you must face the darkness. The only way out is through, he wrote. I felt a wave of dread washing over me. What did that mean? Did I have to confront whatever was inside the barn? Suddenly, I heard a noise outside, the soft crunch of footsteps. Panic seized me. Had they found me already? I dropped the journal back into the box and quietly moved toward the door, desperate to get a glimpse of who was out there. Peering through a crack, I saw a figure move in the moonlight. My breath caught as I recognized the matted hair and wild eyes of the older boy from the barn. He was looking for me. Luke. He called softly. You have to come back. They're waiting for you. My heart raced. I felt the key in my pocket, its presence grounding me but also reminding me of the risk. Should I go to him? Or was he a part of the trap, just like the others? The decision loomed over me like a dark cloud. I had to choose, confront my fears and return, or find another way to escape this nightmare. The darkness seemed to whisper my name, tempting me back into its clutches. What if Jacob was right? What if the only way to break free was to face what hunted me? As I stood there, indecision gripped me. The longer I hesitated, the stronger the pull became. I could feel my resolve starting to weaken. I needed to act, and fast. I took a deep breath and stepped back from the door. My instincts screamed at me to run, to keep hiding, but an aching curiosity tugged at my mind. What did the older boy want? Were they waiting for me, or was it all part of the game Jacob warned about? I reached for the handle, feeling the cold metal send a chill through my fingers. The boy's voice sliced through my thoughts again. Please, Luke. You don't understand. They're coming for you. Something shifted inside me at the mention of coming for you. It wasn't just playful laughter, it felt menacing. I hesitated, heart pounding, straining to hear any approaching footsteps beyond the shed. The air was thick with tension. "Luke. I know you're in there." His tone rose, turning desperate. "If you don't come back, they want to let you go." The urgency in his voice propelled me forward. I opened the door, just a crack, enough to peek out. The boy stood close, shadows dancing around him, making it hard to discern his expression. Was he truly pleading for my safety, or was he orchestrating whatever trap lay ahead? "Who is coming?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "The others are angry. They're hungry for a game, and you're the prize." His eyes darted to the tree line behind him. "I can help you, but you have to trust me." I thought of the journal, Jacob's cryptic warning. More fear rose in me. Trust felt impossible. But what other options did I have? If I stayed hidden, would I become another story in the journal? Without thinking too much, I threw open the door, startling him. "What do I need to do?" "Follow me. We have to hurry." He turned, moving swiftly towards the barn. I followed, heart racing, glancing back at the shed, the journal still weighing on my mind. As we neared the barn, a thick haze seemed to roll off the ground, wrapping around my legs like a living thing. I felt its cold grip, as if warning me to turn back. But the boy pressed on, urging me to keep close as we slipped inside. Inside, the barn felt like another world. Moonlight filtered through the cracks, illuminating dust particles that hung like spirits in the air. The laughter from before grew louder, echoing off the wooden beams. It struck like a drumbeat, pulsating with a life of its own. I felt the thrill of dread wrapped around me tighter the deeper we ventured. "Here," the boy whispered, pointing to a shadowy corner. "They can't see us here. Just wait." I crouched down beside him, my breath shallow. The laughter shifted, rising and falling like waves. Suddenly, I heard distinct voices. They were familiar. It was the kids from my own dreams. "Luke." One called out, their voice sweet but sinister in the dim light. "Come play with us." Panic welled up within me. I gripped the key in my pocket. I thought back to Jacob's journal. "Face the darkness," he had said. "What do we do now?" The boy's face turned grave. "Now, we have to figure out how to break their hold. They want you, and if they find you here," he trailed off, the meaning clear. "If they caught me, I wouldn't escape," and just as I processed this, a sharp noise sliced through the laughter. The barn door creaked wider, and my heart stopped. Someone was stepping inside. In a blink, the barn door swung open, and the air felt charged. The voices around me were hushed as if the darkness was holding its breath. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, the sound a desperate plea for escape. The little girl stepped in first, her smile bright but her eyes deep and hollow. She beckoned, "Luke, come play." But the laughter from the shadows washed over me like a wave, thick and suffocating. The older boy squeezed my arm, a silent warning. "We have to stay hidden, Luke. Don't let them see you." The children lingered at the entrance, and I pressed back into the corner, terrified. Fears collided in my chest. Would I become yet another one of their games? "Where are you?" A voice called, sharp and urgent. It sounded like the boy from before. A darkness seeped into his words now, a sinister tone dancing beneath the surface. Another child joined in, her laughter misplaced. "We want to play with you. Forever." The tendrils of panic caught in my throat. I felt the boy beside me shifting, preparing to stand. "Wait." I hissed, clenching the rusted key in my palm. "What do we do?" He spun to face me, urgency turning his wide eyes frantic. "You need to distract them. Move towards the other side while I create a diversion." I wanted to argue, to say I couldn't let him do that, but the moment to hesitate slipped away. As the voices drew nearer, it hit me I might not make it out unless I faced this darkness head-on. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll stay low." Just then, the light inside flickered. One of the younger kids caught sight of movement and pointed. There he is. Without thinking, I darted sideways, bolting toward the far wall, shadows swallowing me as I dropped and crawled. Now! The older boy yelled. Just then, he leaped from the shadows, his form momentarily catching the attention of the children. Raucous laughter erupted as they all turned as one, scrambling after him. Please, stop. I heard his voice echo in desperation. I took my chance scrambling to the corner where old hay bales stood stacked against the weathered wood. I pressed myself against them as I fought to suppress my panic. In that still moment, I glanced back at the doorway just barely illuminated. A flicker of movement caught my eye, and I saw the older boy struggle against the tide of playmates. The laughter grew louder, sharper, blending into the walls of the barn as if the darkness itself was consuming him. I blinked, the key pressed against my skin like a lifeline. Face the darkness, Jacob's voice echoed in my mind. With my heart pounding like a hammer, I drew in a shaky breath. I needed to step out and face them, confront what loomed in that dark corner of the barn. I couldn't let fear trap me in the same cycle Jacob had faced. Pushing myself through the tangle of hay, I squeezed between the bales and approached the doorway, ready to confront the figure of the little girl who was now at the edge of the threshold. You want to play? I called, trying to find my voice amid the chaos. She turned, eyes wide, tilting her head curiously. Yes. Always. Then let us play, I replied, summoning every ounce of courage I could muster. But on my terms. I'm making the rules now. The children's laughter stilled. Confused whispers rippled through the barn as they inhaled the challenge. What do you mean? The little girl asked, stepping closer. Let me be free. I stepped into the light, feeling the eyes of 100 children bore into my soul. And you can have your games, but only if I can go to the world outside. Their faces twisted in uncertainty, and I pressed on. You need to back away, let me leave, or you won't know what real fun is. The children paused, and the boy's laughter shifted to something darker behind me. You can't play unless you join us. My resolve shook, but I had to stand firm. Then let us play a different game, I said, the strength in my voice faltering. Let us see who can drown out the darkness. Join me and let us be free. Silence fell around me, an eerie calm where whispers abandoned their haunting cadence. I could feel the pull of the barn, the echoes of laughter. Fading away, like they were questioning my audacity, the girl's expression morphed, uncertainty creeping in. You're brave, she whispered, almost as if she was seeing something inside me. What does free mean? It means escaping these shadows, finding the light outside. I took a step into the moonlit space. Let us have fun together, out there, where the sunlight can touch our skin. Another silence, then her eyes darkened. If you leave, you can't come back. In that moment, I felt the weight of stakes rising. I glanced back at the mayhem, the older boys still clashing against the group, their siren songs calling out for me. What if I say yes? The girl hesitated, shifting her gaze toward the shadows of the barn. Then the darkness will take you instead. Let it, I urged, the defiance surging within. But I have the key. Suddenly, the world around me flickered uncertainly. The shadows twisted, laughter turning into howls of dissatisfaction. The barn shifted, as if recoiling from my declaration. The children began to retreat, confusion etched on their faces. With adrenaline spurting through my veins, I took my chance. Join me. Escape with me. One by one, the children began to step back, the darkness unraveling around them. Time seemed to stretch, a timeline knotted in fear and hope. But finally, I felt an opening, the weight lifting. I bolted outside into the night, raw terror igniting hope deep within my chest. I didn't look back. I ran, tearing across the land, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw the barn growing smaller, fading into darkness behind me. Every scream, every whisper ebbed slowly, until only my breath echoed into the night sky. I had escaped, but I could still feel the weight of their gaze lingering, a haunting reminder of my close brush with the realm I had barely left behind. As I reached the outskirts of the cornfield, I breathed in deeply, the air smelling fresh and real. But the burden of unanswered questions pressed upon me. What had I awakened? What else would linger in that dirt-encased husk of a barn? Was the darkness truly behind me, or would it one day draw me back? For now, I was free, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd merely touched the surface of a deeper darkness. I couldn't let myself forget. Not just yet.